There are places in Kenya where very significant political events, indeed game changers, have taken place consistently over the years and the decades. One such place is the Sagana State Lodge in Nyeri. Every time the Sagana State Lodge is in the news, it is something very major unfolding. Something that usually has an impact on the country called Kenya. Yeah, a major impact. And this was the venue yesterday of a meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and leaders and politicians from the Mount Kenya region, over 4,000 of them. Let us start by acknowledging the fact that this meeting took place is a clear confirmation that there's a problem in Central Province, or rather, the wider Mount Kenya region. A major political problem for the current administration. Because we have had very many comments on this channel of people saying, Chris, what are you talking about? There's no problem in Central. The Mount Kenya region is fully behind the Uhuru Kenyatta administration. And I've immediately understood that particular comment most probably comes from a very comfortable, air-conditioned, temperature carefully controlled building somewhere in the US or Europe, very far away from the reality on the ground in Mother Kenya. Unfortunately, I don't do my commentaries from such places. My commentaries are based on wide travel, talking to actual people on the ground, even if it is on telephone, that are based in Kenya. Let me also mention that immediately after this meeting, there was a lot of excitement amongst Team Tanga Tanga people, at least some of them. We even saw excited tweets, indicating that this was clear evidence that somewhere along the road, Raila Odinga will be dumped, for DP William Samoei Ruto. Some people are convinced, that the whole idea behind the handshake and the BBI was to neutralize the power and influence of Raila Odinga, so that by the time 2022 comes along, Raila Odinga will be a non-issue, and that he will have no solid political base to rush back to, no NASA. So the question is this true? Or even if it is not true, is there an element of truth in this particular statement? Well, stick around, and I will give you my verdict towards the tail end of this video. Now, of course, this Sagana State Lodge meeting was held behind closed doors. And all we're getting in the media are small bits and pieces of second-hand information leaked out of the meeting by those who attended. But today, we can piece together what that meeting really involved. And there are two major things that happened. There are a few people who talked, who represented all those leaders who were at that meeting. And most of what they said were complaints, giving the reasons why the Mount Kenya region is no longer at ease, if I can put it like that. And then this was followed by a response by President Uhuru Kenyatta, a response to the issues raised. And we shall come back to the issues raised in a minute. But first of all, we must acknowledge something very significant here. Now, past meetings of the President of the Mount Kenya region have had a very different format. The President speaks. The President dresses down Mount Kenya leaders. Basically, the President calls his troops from his home area, Mount Kenya, to order. And indeed, there are many political analysts in Kenya who expected this to happen. Yesterday at Sagana, they expected the same format that has always been used for these meetings to be carried out. But it wasn't. Why? I believe it was because the main objective of this meeting was to ease tensions in the Mount Kenya region ahead of the release of the BBI report. Now, in case you didn't know, one of the best ways of easing tension is to allow people to vent. And even if you carefully control who is to speak and choose only moderates to speak, still, the others will be allowed to present their complaints to the speakers. And at the end of the meeting, everybody leaves feeling fairly happy. And tensions are deflated almost magically, like how you'd use a pin on a balloon. And so, that was a very smart move by the president's handlers. Now let's really get into the meat of it. What were the complaints about? What are the issues in the Mount Kenya region? Let me summarize it, with one simple two-word Kikuyu phrase. Atire besha. Translation, there's no money. The Kenyan economy is in trouble. And some of those worst hit are from the Mount Kenya region. Because there are very many entrepreneurs, business people who hail from this particular region. And indeed, most of these people are very powerful in Kenya. Many are opinion leaders in the region and beyond, and many have great influence in the country called Kenya. And I'm sure a lot of these speakers were eloquent enough, and brilliant enough to be able to explain why it is the fault of the Jubilee government. Because if you go to Mount Kenya region today, especially Central Province, you will be shocked, because citizens are convinced and they know the reason why the Kenyan economy is in such serious trouble can directly be linked to the Jubilee government policies since 2013. And if you can allow me a quick aside, the truth is, politics aside, this is absolutely true. And without getting into the economics or making it complicated, let me try and prove very quickly why this is true. Now, the policies of the Jubilee government since 2013, at least most of them, have had very good intentions behind them. No doubt about that. However, there's been a problem, a major one. They have not been carefully thought through. And there are very many examples, but I will just give you two quick ones. The decision to put a cap on interest rates and the fight against corruption. Now on that second one, I can hear guys say, what? What are you talking about, Chris? Slow down. Let me explain. By controlling the interest rates that banks charge for loans, the intention was to make loans more widely available to more Kenyans. Because they would be cheaper. Therefore, very good intention. Well done. However, it was not carefully thought out. Now, let me just give you one very shocking statistic. By the end of 2017, December 2017, access to credit in Kenya had dropped to 2.4%, the lowest rate in decades. Compare it to 2014, because this bill was passed in September 2016. Compare it to 2014, when it was a whopping 25% in comparison. Bottom line, the passing of this law did the exact opposite of what it was intended to do. In other words, loans became much more difficult for many Kenyans to access. So, what really went wrong? Now, without getting into the intricacies and into economics, the answer is, shockingly, the government did not take time to understand how banks work in Kenya and why interest rates are as high as they are. Okay, one of the reasons is greed, but there's another reason that caused this particular law to fail badly and to affect the Kenyan economy adversely. And that is the high risk involved. Okay, this high risk was catered for by higher interest rates. Let's move quickly to my second example. The fight against corruption was very important, and indeed is very important for Kenya. That is true. However, it is also true that corruption money has always oiled the Kenyan economy. You get money from some corrupt deal. You go and put up some apartments. You create employment. Those people you employ suddenly have an income and they spend money. Yeah, and that money is spent in Kenya. It boosts businesses, etc., etc. So what the government would have done would have been to go ahead with the fight against corruption. But then they should have also found a way to inject cash into the Kenyan economy. Inject job opportunities. To at least make an effort to make up for the money that would be lost from the economy as a result of the fight, vicious fight against corruption. Back to Mount Kenya. Anybody who wants to understand Mount Kenya politics must acknowledge the fact that historically Mount Kenya politics has always been about the economy of the region. In the days when the region was fighting the Moi government, you'd always hear them say that Moi had messed up the coffee industry. Thus affecting them directly. Moi had messed up the economy of the region. Many people believe that this was deliberate. The idea being that people who are not economically empowered are less effective when they want to fight you politically. In a nutshell, if you're a candidate whom voters in the Mount Kenya region view as being good for the economy, then you're home and dry. You'll always win every election. And that is why it is not surprising that if you visit Central Province and Mount Kenya, you'll hear people saying, we can't even sleep at night because our young people have gone back to crime, because the government has messed up the economy. Bottom line, a lot of the complaints the president had yesterday were to do with the economy of the region and of the country. Now, top on the list of the political complaints, you can be sure, was the following. Our people are no longer comfortable in the Rift Valley. We don't want the BBI. We don't see how the BBI will assist us or help us. Now, there's a very important political lesson to take home from this one. And it is based on the fact that only elephants have long memories. People forget very quickly. It is human nature. Because most of the Mount Kenya region seems to have forgotten that before the handshake, they were also not able to do business. There was so much tension in the country. There were certain areas of the country where people from Mount Kenya would not dare visit. People have already forgotten that. People from Mount Kenya have forgotten that the handshake brought Kenyans together. In retrospect, what should have happened is that immediately after the handshake, the BBI team would have worked overnight. They would have burned the midnight oil and produced that report within a month, or at the very most 2 months, while the memory was still fresh in the minds of Kenyans. But now, more than a year later, things have changed. Things have changed so much. And since we are not elephants, and of course the people in Mount Kenya region are not elephants, nobody remembers. And even if you remind them, they're not interested. Because they've got other burning issues on their plates. In response, the president spoke about the Kibra elections, and how they were peaceful. And how for the first time, contrary political inclinations were able to campaign close to each other in the same constituency, in Kibra, which has never happened before. Now, although what the president was saying is absolutely true, and many Kenyans should be able to appreciate this, this is something beautiful, something very good that has happened in our country. The truth is, Mount Kenya people, most of them, don't care what happens in Kibra. Just the same way, ODM's staunch supporters, somewhere in Nyanza province, don't care what happens in Nyeri. That is the political reality. Now let us put it all together. The economic problems in the Mount Kenya region are not going to go away overnight, which means that the political problems this administration faces in Mount Kenya will not go away And this brings us to the next point. The promise I made earlier on in this video. Anybody who imagines or believes that Raila Odinga will be tricked or can be tricked in the handshake and the BBI is being unrealistic. I'm avoiding saying they're daydreaming. And there's a very simple reason why that is true. Raila Odinga still represents the side in the last presidential elections that had the most votes. Or if you don't want to put it that way, because I know that is sensitive, the side that had at least half the votes. And for the current government to operate, it needs the support and the goodwill of the other half that did not vote for President Uhuru Kenyatta and voted for Raila Odinga. And whatever happens, until 2022, that will remain a fact. Which means dumping Raila Odinga at any point in time is political suicide. But all in all, the Sagana meeting was a good idea. And the result of it is that tensions in the Mount Kenya region have decreased, at least momentarily. I also believe that the Sagana meeting signaled a new way that the president will be communicating and engaging with his grassroots support in the Mount Kenya region. And this new way, wait for this one, cannot involve Raila Odinga. It will need to involve Deputy President William Samoei Ruto. And this is where it could get very confusing for many political analysts. Because this will not signal a new, rejuvenated, better relationship between DP Ruto and the president. No. It will simply be political convenience. And the handshake and the BBI will remain firmly in place. In my view, joint rallies between the president and Raila Odinga in many parts of the Mount Kenya region are still not feasible. And I suspect going forward what will happen is that the two handshake principles will carefully choose a few very well chosen, carefully chosen locations to hold joint rallies. But not blanket Mount Kenya. No, that's not feasible. At least at the moment, it is not. Folks, very confusing times ahead in Kenyan politics. Very confusing. But I hope those of us on this channel will not be confused. And we will remain with a clear head and a clear mind of exactly what is going down. And of course, one of the ways of retaining a clear mind, unconfused, if there's such a word, concerning Kenyan politics, is to be a subscriber to the weekly intelligence briefs and Club 1999. And indeed, the amazing, never-before-seen offer we have had that was supposed to have ended last night has been extended. So take full advantage of it, because we're extending it only through this weekend. You can see details of that on your screens right now. Now, before I go, let me say something that is very controversial, but I believe is true. The Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto, is not popular in the Mount Kenya region. Not really. But what he has done is that he has been able to identify with exactly what is happening on the ground in the region. And has used his people on the ground to put a perception in the minds of people in the region that he represents a viable solution to some of the nagging problems the region is facing now. That is what it really is, in my view. Now, unfortunately, that is ridiculous, because the truth is the Deputy President has been at the center of many of these policies that have had adverse effects on the economy, including the economy of the Mount Kenya region. And so the only way to turn this perception into something factual is for the Deputy President to say, yes, I was part of the problem. But because I was part of the problem, I am best qualified to offer the solution. Now, if you understand anything about politics, you will quickly realize that is something you cannot sell politically. You can't. It is impossible to ever sell something like that in 100 years. It is much easier to be untruthful and to say, niliwaambia, lakini hawakunisikiza. I told them, but they didn't hear. Now give me a chance to fix it. Anyway, until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.